Hi everyone, welcome to Studio Jake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Berry. Be sure to like this video, share it out, subscribe to my channel, and ring that little bell because YouTube is doing this weird thing, especially now, where they're curating your subscriptions, so you may not see my latest video or live stream right away. So ring that little bell, that way you get notifications, if notifications even work. So a little bit shorter episode today, but I wanted to talk about something. Dark Phoenix didn't has gotten mixed reviews. Some people say it's the worst film since X3. I find that a little hard to believe because X3 was pretty terrible. Let's be real. It was pretty awful. So it's the last film in the Sony. Or I'm sorry, not the Sony. The Fox X-Men franchise. Now, before Marvel launched into the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe with Disney, a lot of the films and the characters, they were actually licensed to other film companies, and that includes the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and all their properties and characters. They were with Fox. So now, though, Disney has gotten a hold of Fox through a buyout, a major merger, and they've said that they want to incorporate the X-Men into the MCU. Now, this character, Wolverine, he's probably one of the most famous X-Men of all time. He's, of course, incredibly popular. So I wanted to take to Twitter because Hugh Jackman, who played the character since he was in X-Men, X2, X-Men United, X-Men 3, he got 2 spin-off films, Wolverine Origins, and the Wolverine, and and Logan, but everyone knows my unpopular opinion about Logan. And of course, he was in the new series. He had an appearance in X-Men First Class, a cameo. He was a main character in Days of Future Past. X-Men Apocalypse, I believe he has kind of a brief appearance. If I'm not mistaken, that movie it's not as bad as people say it is, but it wasn't as good as people say it is either. So there's some back and forth. I was just kind of like, yeah, it's okay. But anyway, so I went to Twitter and I said, Hugh Jackman retired after his appearance in Logan because he feels that he can't really portray an ageless character anymore, which is understandable, though I wish he would have ended it with this last movie, Dark Phoenix. I think that would have been, because he could have gone out with a bang with the rest of the franchise other than the whimper he went out on in Logan. Yes, I know I'm in the minority. Everyone loves Logan. I hated it. I thought it was a terrible film. I thought it was just Jess Mango saying, please let me direct Blood Meridian. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Blood Meridian, it's this script that has been in development for a long time, and development limbo. Several directors have been attached to it. It's based on a novel, but the novel is incredibly violent, and a lot of the scripts have been equally as violent, and they're having trouble convincing a studio to do it. So I took to Twitter and I asked them, who do you think should play Wolverine now that Hugh Jackman, and the reason I'm looking down is I have my phone. I'm going to show you some pictures. So here are 10 actors. Now, please note, this isn't my top 10. These are people that were named to me on Twitter, and mixed in with a few other people. I got some joke ones because people are so afraid that Disney is going to, as they say, Disney-fy the X-Men. I think Disney knows where their bread and butter is as far as that's concerned. We'll just have to wait and see. But here's one. I actually got this one a couple of times. This is Charlie Hunnam. For those of you unfamiliar, Charlie Hunnam played Jax Teller on the hit show Sons of Anarchy. He's been in Pacific Rim, The Lost City of Z. He was in Arthur, Legend of the Sword, which was kind of boring, but a few people want him to also play Green Arrow in the DCEU, which would be interesting. I wouldn't mind seeing that. He's a good actor. He's real good at playing muted characters. I'm not really sure how he would be as Wolverine, but I wouldn't like picket his casting. I think I would kind of want to wait and see. Now, this is one of my picks, and I know this is kind of blasphemy because he's already with another film franchise, but I was going to say Jason Momoa, who of course plays Aquaman in the DCEU. He's a little tall to play Logan. Typically, Wolverine is portrayed as short and stocky. Of course, Hugh Jackman was really big, so I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind him being him, because he's really good at playing savage characters. I believe he's in a television show called Savage. So honestly, I think he could pull it off. He's really big. For those of you who would like to see him outside of the DCU, he's in this this really interesting he's in this really interesting film called Bullet to the Head. It's a B movie. It's a B action movie, but it's got Sylvester Stallone in it. And that's what I'm kind of basing my my analysis on, is that his role in that. So I could kind of see this. Now, this I'm just doing for fun, but this is Davies. You might have seen him in a couple of Christian flicks. He's really strong in his faith, and he's a host at Rebel TV. And he would I think he could pull it off. He's a really good actor, but he's kind of been blacklisted in Hollywood for his faith. So he has a lot of appearances in films like Courageous and Even If You're Gone, which is a really good film. And so I'm throwing it out there because I know him, I respect him. Oh, I should say I'm acquainted with him. We know each other on Twitter. We've never met in person. We've just kind of communicated through social media. But I wanted to give him a shout out. I also had him listed in my group of actors who could play Batman. I always like to give him a shout out because he is a very unappreciated actor. But like I said, he's spoken out about his faith. He's very strong in his Christian faith, and I respect that. There used to be a time in Hollywood where they would want to blacklist Christians, but it was still considered kind of taboo. Now they actively do it because actors think they're better. I should say the film industry thinks they're better than Christians who, give more charity than anyone else in the whole world. But that's neither here nor there. This is another guy. He was actually considered to play Wolverine, and I believe even Hugh Jackman commented that he would like to see him. But this is Tom Hardy. Now, the issue though with Tom Hardy is he's actually has played Venom now. He's Eddie Brock and in the new Venom film, and so and there's been rumors that the third Spider-Man film in the Spider-Man trilogy is going to be a crossover between Tom Hardy's Venom and Spider-Man from the MCU. Now, Sony was going to create like a self-sustaining Spider-Verse where it would be a part, which I don't know how they're going to do that. They should stick to animation like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but they were going to actually do a live-action Spider-Verse, but it was going to be absent Spider-Man. So they were going to do a Black Cat, Silver Sable crossover, which would have been absolutely ridiculous and stupid. I don't know why that even crossed their mind. They were going to do more Venom films, which I know that my fellow movie critic, Christian Toto, he actually labeled it one of the worst films of last year. He's wrong. It's just a fun action superhero movie. It's not as gory as people wanted the Venom film to be, but I think it was fun. It's basically like a Fast and Furious film. A lot of fun, great to watch, cool action. The story's kind of iffy, but Tom Hardy was good in it. And had he not played Venom, I think I would have been more acceptable or more accepting of him playing Venom. So next up, we have Frank Potter. Now, he's another Sons of Anarchy actor. I'm sorry I keep looking down at my phone. It's because it goes black, dark every 5 seconds. I have it set to a higher setting, but for some reason it does. Now, he played the character of Miles on Sons of Anarchy, and he's been in a couple other films and television show appearances. And I think he could pull it off. He's a really good actor. One thing about him was he was able to play kind of that loyal, tough guy type character. And that's what I like. I like the loyal, tough guys as they appear in films, and I like that characterization. he was actually my favorite character in Sons of Anarchy for a little while, but he got killed off and framed for betraying the Sons of Anarchy club, which I just thought was, I was just heartbroken because one thing that's my personality is very unique, and so it's hard to find a character who's kind of like me. I'm an ambivert, I'm an ISTJ, and you just, there's not a lot of casting calls for ISTJs or ambiverts. So for those of you, an ambivert is someone who he's not as outgoing, or she not as outgoing as an extrovert, and they need their quiet time, as we like to call it, similar to an introvert. So basically, we're an extrovert that needs to be recharged, and that's what I am. I like hanging out with people. I have a close circle of friends that I like hanging out with all the time. But then I need to step back and recharge. So my next one is Timothy Oliphant. He's been recently starring on a couple of Netflix shows. He was, I believe it's called The Santa Clarita Diet, where he plays the husband of a woman who is a zombie cannibal. I haven't seen it, but I've seen him in other films. He's really good. Of course, he was in the FX series Justified, where he played a U.S. Marshal stationed in, you know, the boonies, basically, as punishment for killing a fugitive that he was supposed to arrest. He's a really good actor. Probably one of the last few tough guy actors, but I think he could pull it off. I think he's very well versed. He's got a good range. I would love to see him play someone like Wolverine. He's very good at it. Again, taller. And speaking of height, this guy would actually be perfect. This is, of course, Taron Egerton. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sometimes these British names throw me off just a wee bit. But he's actually short and stocky, like Wolverine is supposed to be. And even some of the bad movies I've seen him in, he's actually a pretty good actor. It's just, you know, he's been in a couple of, what's the word I'm looking for? He's been in a couple of B movies that weren't really that great, but he is good in them. And I think that he could really pull it off. I think he has that kind of tough guy, the short and stocky, I'm gonna get in your face kind of vibe to him that I think would be really good for a character like Wolverine. He could pull it off really well, I think. So this guy is kind of a long shot, I realize, but he looks really good with a beard. This is, of course, oh, now I'm going to forget his name, but Ryan Hurst, of course. Another Son, I know Sons of Anarchy, but they're just good resource. Sons of Anarchy is just a good resource for actors who have played savage characters, and he plays the loyal and lovable Opie, who is the best friends of Jax Teller. He has a kind of a tragic end in Sons of Anarchy. His character does, and he was on another show, I believe, called Outsiders, about this Appalachian mountain clan, that their mountain gets seized by the government, and they don't let them take it, basically. But he's a really good actor. Again, he's kind of like Jason Momoa. He's really big and he's really tall. So I'm not quite sure if he would be right as far as the look of Wolverine, but I think he would still make a decent Wolverine, especially if they wanted to kind of pull off more of the compassionate Wolverine. Like, Wolverine is not a empathetic person, obviously, but he can sometimes be compassionate. We saw that in how he trained Kitty Pryde and Jubilee in the X-Men comic books, of course. Of course, that's all gone to crap recently. They've really, Marvel Comics has really done their best to sabotage the X-Men, which I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Next is Liam Hemsworth, and here's a perfect picture of him. Look, he's got the horned hair, he's got the kind of beard. Liam Hemsworth, of course, brother of Chris Hemsworth. He's been in so many great films, so many great action films. I would love to see him get an opportunity to be in a franchise like this. I really think he would make a good Wolverine. I think he could do it if, you know, of course, he's busy breaking Miley Cyrus's heart, I guess, but I really think he could pull it off. I think he would be good for the part. I think he would show up and just wow everyone. Now this one is my preferred. This one is from me, not from Twitter, not from other people's suggestions, but I picked Scott Eastwood. Scott Eastwood, of course, you've seen him in Flags of Our Fathers, Invictus, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a whole bunch of really great action films. The Fast and the Furious, he kind of took over after Paul Walker passed away, and I think he would be really good for that. He's my #1 pick, and I believe he is actually on Disney's short list to play Wolverine in an X-Men reboot. I'm curious how that is all going to work out, but again, I think he's got the chops. I think he's got the lineage. Of course, he's Clint Eastwood, famous actor, director, producer, writer. It's his son, and he's been in TV shows. He's been in movies. He's been all over the place. I would love to see him in that kind of film. I think he would do a really good job as Wolverine. He's my best. And of course, Rosemary Dewar, who is one of my all-star guests that I have on very frequently, she agreed with me. She gave me a good amen. Now, there are some people who think that if Disney reboots the X-Men, there are some people who are like, oh, maybe we should back off just a little bit because we don't want them to rush into it because they already have to do a lot of screenwriting. Apparently, there's a rumor going around that they're going to do an X-Men film based off the premise of Wolverine and the X-Men, which was an animated series where Professor X, he is in a coma, he gets put in a coma, and he uses, and he wakes up in the future, and he uses Cerebro to broadcast himself in the past to help the X-Men stop the Phoenix from destroying the Earth. And he actually asked Wolverine to lead the X-Men because he doesn't feel like Scott can do it at this point in his life. So that would be really interesting. Now, Marvel, there's this Marvel exec who made a comment that the X-Men that the term X-Men is outdated because it's not gender neutral enough. Bull malarkey. That's absolutely stupid. That's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what he's thinking. The men in X-Men actually it refers to mankind, which is another word for humanity. Now, this guy is, I don't know what's going on at Disney, but go woke, go broke. And I know that Disney and Marvel will always have a fan base, but the thing with Marvel and Disney is they've got to learn not to anger their fans. They see it in their comic book sales. The woke sort of attitude failed them in the comic book world. So I don't know why they think it's a good idea to mess with the fans with the movies. And of course, they've been sprinkling it in. They've always kind of had like jabs at SJW stuff. Captain Marvel, of course, had the most. A few people thought it totally ruined the movie for them. I don't think that's the case. I thought it was still just a good buddy cop kind of film. Black Panther, to me, the bad guy, he was the one who had all the woke stuff. He was the one saying all the woke things, and then he ended up being wrong. They called him a fraud in the film and all that. So I don't think that's the case either. So I think that Disney is going to make a mistake because they've seen it fail. They did this with this latest X-Men series. They kind of made the X-Men with, I think it was called Gold, Blue, and then there was a couple of others, the all-new X-Men. They really tried to woke up the characters, and it failed. It's so bad that they're fired the writing team for the X-Men, or moved them to other, I don't know if they fired them, but they moved them to other projects. And they're hiring a whole new writer who's going to relaunch the series, basically. And if that's the case, they just really need to call it X-Force, X-Factor, Generation X, one of those, the New Mutants. Well, they already have the New Mutants. But they need to just, if that's the case, they should have just said, hey, listen, the X-Men has already been done, so we're going to use one of these other names just to differentiate us from those other. I think there's another time for a while the X-Men were called the Mechanics, where Kitty Pryde, or that might have been actually a solo Kitty Pryde series. I can't remember. But my point is, they could use other bits and pieces. They don't need to make a big deal out of it, and just to show just to get a couple of just to sell a couple of Funko Pops to a bunch of SJWs. I think that's kind of stupid. But anyway, that's all the time I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I haven't seen Dark Phoenix yet. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Tell me what you think about this list. And if you have anyone, again, let me know in the comments below. Tell me what you think. Maybe they'll appear in another video. So again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring that little bell. Follow me on Twitter @RealJacobArry. Instagram is @RealJacobArry. My Facebook is Author Jacob Arry, and my blog where I have movie reviews, music reviews, all kinds of stuff, news, entertainment, all that kind of stuff. It's www.jacobarry, my name, .blog, jacobarry.blog. So head over there, subscribe, and let me know what you think, and check out all my movie reviews and all kinds of stuff that I do. Sit back, relax, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.